Hello and welcome to our Patina Nation webinar. I'm your producer, Jesse Casperson, Community Manager at Patina. A few housekeeping items before we get started today. At the bottom of your screen, your controls should look something like this. Bottom left-hand corner are your audio settings. If you can hear me, you're all set. You have a chat tool, the raise your hand tool, and a Q&A tool at the bottom today. I won't ask you to raise your hand. You can't hear or see me. Catherine will be prompting you to use the chat function throughout the presentation. And at the end of the webinar, we will have time devoted for Q&A, where we'll ask you to use the Q&A function. We will have our speaker address those questions as time allows, but feel free to reply to others and upvote questions you'd like to have answered. At the top of your window, you'll also find viewing options to change how you're viewing today's presentation. If you haven't downloaded the Zoom platform and are using the browser version, you may not have access to all of today's features, but should be able to watch and listen. Today's event is being recorded, and a replay will be available in coming days. Our goal at Patina Nation is to help make you be the best and most successful independent executive you can be, whether you're working for yourself, working for Patina, or working for one of our competitors. PatinaNation.com is your community. It's a place to learn, share, network, and more. We invite you to be active and contribute on Patina Nation. Below are some of the many resources you can find on PatinaNation.com. Earning opportunities, learning and development opportunities, benefits for independent executives, business support services, Patina lifestyle offerings, and marketing tools and resources. Today, we are thrilled to be joined by Catherine Byers Breet. Catherine has been hiring and managing consultants since 1997. She's also worked in recruiting, sales, and leadership positions for global and national consulting firms, driving millions in sales and maximizing profits and working with top-rated consultants. Catherine is back with us at Patina Nation and is here to chat with you about her consulting courses. Patina Nation is committed to courses you need to succeed, and Catherine's courses are a great tool for your toolbox. I'll turn this event over to Catherine.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thrilled to have you here today, and really looking forward to talking to you about this challenge of consulting. It's one thing to be really great at what you do. It's another thing entirely to keep the pipeline full, clients coming in, closing deals, and doing work that you really, really love. So the day I finally really understood what consulting was all about and what it takes for consultants to succeed was the day that I got this phone call. And Jesse, just to quickly check in, are you guys seeing my slides?
Am I on? Yes.
All right, wonderful. So there I was fairly new in sales. I was recruiting, director of recruiting for a global consulting firm. And then I got to stretch my wings and get into sales. And early on, I connected into an IT leader at an international financial services firm. And I was thrilled to bits. She ran a huge department and I really wanted to sell her some consultants, but she had vendors that she liked. And so I consistently called her. I talked to her or met with her at least once a month. Finally, about 7 months later, she finally called me and said, all right, I give in. My vendors aren't producing. I need an IT leader. Can you deliver? And I said, yes, absolutely. And I stayed in my office. I slept on the floor. No, I'm kidding. But I worked really, really hard to get her a fantastic guy. And I convinced her to hire him at top rate. I convinced her to turn away all the other consultants and put the guy in. And I thought everything was great. And then the phone rang about 6 weeks later. And this is what she said to me. It was 7 a.m. And she said, I'm firing Tom today. Actually, you are firing Tom today. But before you talk to him, I want you to come into my office in the next hour And by the way, I want my money back. So let me just tell you quickly what that looked like when I walked into her office an hour later. I canceled my other client meetings. Sorry to those of you if you're on the call with me today. Walked into her office, just my blood was already running cold. I couldn't imagine what Tom could have possibly done. It was bad. Now, I think most of you are old enough to remember the dot matrix printers. Do you remember the piles of paper that were all connected, and you'd pick up the top piece of paper and the whole hundreds of sheets of paper would drop down to the floor? Well, I walked into this client's office and she said, "Good morning. This is what your consultant has been doing." And she picked up a piece of paper and dozens of pages fell to the floor. Those were all the websites that he had been visiting on her dime. He had been paying his bills, selling his side business, and visiting some other websites that, let's just say, they were not appropriate for a client site. So I did fire Tom. I did have to pay my money back. And in that moment, on that day, I realized with absolute clarity that there's some nuances to consulting that not everybody knows. So anyway, so that was my worst day selling consultants. I had a couple of other doozies. Then there was the guy who thought it was appropriate to bring in a paperweight that looked like a grenade. And the cleaning crew came in at 10 o'clock one night, saw that on his desk, and called the bomb squad. Then there was the woman who was selling her travel business on the side at the client site. And then there was the guy who was very, very fired up about his political candidate and decided to push him on everybody who would listen or not. So anyway, you want to talk about when consultants get fired. These are some of the biggest doozies I've had to experience ripping people out of client sites. But I'd love to chat now because we're talking to a powerful group of executives who have done a ton of hiring on your own. So in the chat, you tell me, what is the worst thing that a consultant has done on your dime when you were paying? So let's chat. What sort of things have you had going on out there? And again, the way to chat is just to, there we go. As R. Whitney already has, you can go to the chat box and just click to send it to all panelists and attendees if you can. Click the drop-down menu to send it to all panelists and attendees, and then everybody can see. So R. Whitney says she had a consultant that was playing games on the computer. I know you guys have had lots of situations. So keep chatting away about the worst situations that you've had where you've had to fire a consultant and hopefully get your money back. Ooh, Julie, stealing information, that is never good. Adam had somebody with a temper who physically threatened his other staff. You guys get the idea. Unfortunately, there's some bad apples out there. But you don't need coaching on how to avoid this bad behavior. And the good news is most consultants do not fail because of bad judgment or bad behavior. And none of you are going to get fired for bad judgment and bad behavior. So why are we here today? We're here because smart, talented executive consultants like you don't always make it as consultants. And they struggle and they struggle and they struggle, and they often get frustrated and go back to full-time jobs. And you don't want to do that. I don't want you to do that. Patina doesn't want you to do that. So let's talk about this. What have you seen out there? You've got friends that are consultants that tried their hand at it for a while and then they gave up back to time. What is happening? Why do you think consultants fail to succeed? If it isn't bad grenade behavior on the job site, usually, what is the biggest number one reason why people fail? BD, Gloria nailed it, business development. That's it. That is the number one reason why consultants fail. So smart, talented executives who have spent years and years and years on the hiring side of the desk, hiring, firing, promoting, mentoring, all of it, find themselves on the hiring side of the desk, and all of a sudden things look a little bit different. See, selling widgets or selling a big brand company or even selling a startup, whatever your background is, when you were selling somebody else's products or services, That sales process was different than it is when you're a consultant. And this is something that it's tough to understand until you're in that chair and you start to realize, oh my gosh, what I'm doing isn't working. And so what I've been hearing for the last, well, gosh, 20 years, because I was selling consultants for years and years and years, is they'd say, I am really good at what I do. What is the problem? I'm really good at what I do. I just need a project. And the answer is, you are really good at what you do, but your resume and your track record are not going to sell you on their own. You have to sell yourself. And so again, you were the decision maker. You were the one scanning resumes, grilling candidates, deciding who to hire and fire. And now all of a sudden you're the one on the other side. And that can be really shocking. It can be really shocking to find yourself on the other side. Now, part of the problem might be if you wear a tie like this. I'm just kidding. Isn't that funny? I haven't seen a tie like that in a long, long time. But anyway, so we're here today. I'm here today to talk to you about how to attack this problem, how to take your years of success, and for many of you, your years of sales success. That was my experience. I had been selling consultants for 10 years for 2 global consulting firms. I was selling millions of dollars in revenue, selling to some of the biggest brands on the planet, 3M, United Health Group, MoneyGram International, you name it. And so I really had an overinflated sense of confidence when I hung my own shingle 12 years ago and started selling myself and my own business. But I was very hopeful, I was very excited, and I knew I could do it. Now, my dream when I started my own business was not to do what I'd been having to do for other companies. I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to do work that I loved. I wanted to do things that got me jumping out of bed in the morning and have fun. The consulting world can be ugly. There is a dark side to it, and I was tired of that, and I wanted to do things differently and have a lot more fun out there. So I committed, man. I called my company ARBEZ, which is zebra backwards. Actually own a zebra. His name is Joe. Yes, he is our company mascot. Wedding present. That's a story for another day. But if you don't think that was brave enough, I also gave myself a title, Chief Stripe Changer. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do what I do really, really well. And I'm going to have some fun. And I know how to sell. So all I got to do is get people in the funnel, get enough people in the funnel, more and more phone calls, more contacts, more handshakes, and the money's going to come out the bottom. The problem with what I was doing is I was getting a whole bunch of people in the funnel. I was getting business, but they were not good clients. The big fish, my ideal clients, were walking in the other direction. They either didn't hear about me, or when they met me or when they heard about me, they weren't getting it. They weren't understanding the message. My message was not crystal clear about why they should buy me. I was completely missing out on the fun clients, the money. It was stressful. I was not sleeping. It was really, really hard. And so, are any of you experiencing this? Again, you're smart, you're talented. You know, if you can just get in there, you can do amazing work, but you're having trouble with the funnel. Alan says, yes, lack of clarity in communicating one's capabilities. Yes, absolutely. So Al and I are the only ones who've struggled with this. I know most of you, that's why you're here, right? You want to know what, it's just not working. You're doing good work. Maybe you're getting projects here and there, but you aren't getting enough of them. Maybe you aren't getting the right rates. Here are the things that this problem with sales turns into. It turns into consultants struggling to find the right clients. They struggle to get the right price. Maybe you know what you're worth, but you can't convince the clients of it, and people are pushing you down on your rates. Maybe you're struggling to get that magnetic message that demonstrates your competence, your ROI in 10 seconds or less. Maybe you're struggling to articulate what you can do for a company. Maybe you're bombing in your interviews. Maybe you're getting clients without problem because your network is really strong and you're pretty good with that messaging. But when it comes time to sit down in front of a client and get them to actually sign on the dotted line, maybe you're blowing up in an interview. And that's not working well for you, because selling yourself as a consultant is very different than interviewing other people. And the other thing is, most of you haven't had to look for a job since you got out of college. Most of you moved up through your career because somebody tapped you on the shoulder and promoted you. Now, all of a sudden, guess what? As a consultant, you're actually a job hunter. And when did you ever get training on that? So interviewing, it sounds simple. It should be straightforward, but there are a lot of reasons why consultants fall apart in that thing. And then closing that deal and getting those clients off the dime to sign on the dotted line, give you a start date, and just get going. A lot of things can get lost there. So Jesse, let's roll this poll. Let's roll this poll right now. I'd like to know which of these things are getting in your way. Which of these are you struggling with the most? Is it finding the right clients, just not knowing how to find them? Because they certainly are not waving their flag saying, I need you. So finding the clients, is it pricing? Is it that messaging? I could see one of you mentioned struggling with that messaging. Interviewing as a consultant, closing the deal. Where are you struggling most when it comes to selling yourself? Well, that poll rolls and we get a few more responses, and then Jesse's going to share the results. Let's talk about what happens if you continue to struggle, if you don't fix these problems. What's going to happen is bad things. Bad things like wasting time on the wrong clients. I mentioned it gently earlier, but man, those wrong clients can be devastating financially, stress-wise, and they can keep you working on projects you don't want to do, spinning your wheels, having trouble delivering because your client is a bad client. And meanwhile, you're missing out on all the right clients. So let's take a look at these poll results that Jesse has shared. 62% of you are really struggling with that funnel. You're struggling to find enough clients. Pricing, 21% of you. Messaging. Selling yourself is different than selling all those companies that you used to lead. Interviewing and closing a deal. All right, good. So now that we've got a good pulse on what you came here for today, let's attack them. Let's talk about how to solve this problem. So if you continue to suffer in these areas, you will continue to find the wrong clients who are either never going to buy from you. They are going to suck your brain dry. They're going to suck all the free coaching and consulting that they can get out of you. They're going to let you buy them lunch. They might even let you take them golfing, but they're never going to put down their paycheck, their checkbook, and hire you. Or worse, they're going to hire you and be one of those clients that you just want to fire, which you can do, but at what cost? All right, so the other downfalls to staying in this place of struggling with sales is you miss out on opportunities. If you don't know how to find the clients, you don't know how to qualify your prospects and figure out if they have the money, the authority, the need, the urgency, and if they're going to be somebody you want to work with. If you are wasting your time with the wrong clients, you're missing the fantastic clients. If you aren't ready with your messaging, you are missing out on opportunities. Most of you, I'm sure, because you're really good at what you do and you probably have a strong network, you're getting leads. The question is, are you able to flip those leads into real work, real projects? A story that, I've been in the business a long time and I've seen all sorts of problems, but I was really stunned a few months ago when I got a call from a friend in California. He's running a company out there and he said, I need an interim CMO. We just acquired a company. I've got a really strong marketing team, but I don't have anybody at that level. I need somebody who can just come in, help us bring the brands together, clean house, clean up our messaging. Do you have anybody? Now, I don't place consultants anymore, but I'm very well networked and, I love helping people, especially friends. So I said, you know what, as a matter of fact, I just talked to somebody yesterday who'd be perfect for you. Let me introduce you. So I did an email introduction, a very warm, thoughtful email introduction. I introduced the two of them, let it go. And when I went back to my business, well, 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from Brent and he said, Catherine, what is going on here? This Virginia woman that you introduced me to is, first of all, you introduced us via email. I replied right away and said, Virginia, I'd love to talk. And I didn't hear anything from her for 2 weeks. So I moved on and I hired somebody. 2 weeks later, she emailed me and then she called me and then she emailed me. I got a business to run. I got a new marketing consultant to onboard. I'm not interested in talking to her anymore. She is bugging me. Will you please tell her to back off? She missed the opportunity. Well, I don't need to tell you that this was shocking and, gut-wrenching for me on so many levels. Very embarrassing on the Brent side of the house, shocking on the Virginia side of the house. I'd known her for 15 years. So I picked up the phone and I said, Virginia, what is going on? And I bit my tongue and I did not attack. And I said, I just got a phone call from Brent. And she said, yeah, he's not responding to my voicemails or my emails. Why not? You said he was desperate and he needed somebody right away. I said, he was desperate. He needed somebody 2 weeks ago. You didn't respond for 2 weeks. What was happening? And she said, I was working on my case studies and redoing my LinkedIn profile. I wanted to demonstrate to him that I was absolutely on point with what he was looking for. God, I understand why she wanted to do those things, but oh my goodness. So when we talk about getting ready with your messaging and looking good and being ready to snap those opportunities, you got to be ready. All right. So enough beating up of poor Virginia. All right. Other downstream problems that can happen is I've talked about bombing the interviews. Let me just call something out that most people are too polite to tell you. One of the biggest boo-boos that executives make when they go in to interview as a consultant is they're a little too strong. They're a little too confident. And that can translate into either feeling like a bull in a china shop to the person interviewing them, or talking too much. I've watched this over and over and over again. And here's what happens. Everybody's got great intentions. And the consultants that go in are really excited about the opportunity. They get fired up about what they can do to solve the problem. So they go into solution mode. Oh my gosh, I can come in and I could do this, this, and this, and this for you, thinking that's demonstrating their prowess and demonstrating to the client that they are fabulous and they get the job done. Unfortunately, if you don't do enough listening in the beginning, you can come across like a bulldozer and frighten your prospective client. They will be afraid that you're going to either run them out of a job or run their team out of the house, not listen to them, or what have you. And so you've got to be very, very, very careful about working on your selling skills and your interviewing skills. Okay, so that happens. It has been often called diarrhea of the mouth. And I could tell you a story about a VP of sales. He'd been a VP of sales in the pharmaceutical industry, track record of success, 3 pages long. And he was not getting hired over and over and over again. He sat down with me, and I like doing mock interviews. It's really where you figure out what's going wrong with somebody. And so I set up a camera and had him come in. I said, where do you want a job? All right, I'll be the CEO of that company. The guy walked in and he started shoving portfolios and case studies and white papers. He started shoving all this noise at me across the table. Number one, he was excited. Number two, he was nervous. So anyway, don't do that. All right, other challenges that crop up. Selling the wrong solution, and this is kissing cousin to talking too much during a client meeting, whether it's informal or formal. You've really got to make sure you listen first before you pitch anything. It's like I was hiring somebody to come and paint my house. I interviewed 4 different companies, and one of the guys showed up and he's like, yeah, and he wanted to impress me. So he said, yeah, we just won this big deal to paint this new fire department. It's 3 stories tall. It's got bays for 8 fire departments. My team is working nights and weekends. It's been phenomenal. Well, that wasn't relevant to me and my single family home at all. I just wanted somebody who was willing to climb up 3 stories and paint my house. So he sold the wrong solution because he wasn't thinking clearly and he didn't stop to ask me any questions. So be careful about that. Another challenge that happens when sales is tricky for you is that you can get stuck waiting. In the chat, how many of you have had a fabulous meeting with a client? And in that meeting, they said, oh my gosh, I cannot wait for you to start. You are exactly what we've been looking for. When can you start? What's your price? Got it. Let's do it. Can you start on Monday? I'll be in touch. So you got all the buy-in signals. They said, we want you as soon as possible. And then nothing. Absolute silence. In the chat, have you experienced that? Yep, Brian says too many times. Adam says tick, 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 tick. And Sarah said yes. And then they finally got off the pot 6 months later. That happens too. Several times. Sergio says absolutely. It's so funny that you say that, Brian, that companies can't make decisions. I was talking with a guy just Friday of last week who's been selling to big global companies for 20 years. He trains sales teams on how to sell into big companies. And he talked about how he got his meeting with Bill Gates and blah, blah, blah. So he's a mucky muck, right? He really knows how to sell. And he said, Catherine, the one thing you got to remember is that companies today are making decisions by executive consensus. And so when you go into a company, do not just talk to the CEO alone. Talk to the CEO and all of her VPs all at once. Make sure they're all in the room together, because otherwise you're going to end up having 8, 9, 10 meetings. So that's really good advice. And I think it's good advice for you to think about. Sniff that out and figure out, how are they going to make this decision? It's one of the critical sales questions for you to ask in a first conversation. Assuming this is a good fit, what are the next steps in the process? What's it going to take for you to get from our conversation to me sitting in there and solving your problem, and get them to walk you through what their approval process looks like? How are they going to get the money? Who's going to be in the room to make that decision? And if they mention more than one person, then your next step is to say, let me come in and talk with all of those people, or even have a conference call before you waste your time driving or flying in to meet with anybody. All right. So all of this rolls up to the ultimate problem, which is you are flushing money and time down the toilet. Alan said, not talking to the buyer. Yes, as I talk about qualifying the opportunity, you guys have got, especially at the executive level, you have to be so careful not to give away free consulting. People are going to fall in love with your background, your formal titles. They're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to pick your brain. They're going to want you to tell you what their competitors are doing. And you can end up going on 3 or 4 lunches, dinners, or golf adventures with people and finally realize they aren't the decision maker. They don't have the authority or the budget or the need to hire you. So absolutely. Thanks for bringing that out, Alan. All right. David has some frustrations about working through agencies which double his price. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Do you know what? Not all of them. Sometimes you'll get a company that'll just do a 50% markup, but the really good firms usually do 100% markup. Why? Because they're working just as hard as we're talking about right now. They've got millions of dollars dumped in their sales efforts to find those hidden opportunities, to present you, to position you, to do the collections, to carry the insurance, all of it. So David, I'm glad you're here today, because you can get some phenomenal opportunities through agencies. However, you can't wait for them to bring you the opportunities. It's a timing thing. And then number 2, there are markups like that. And there you go. Brian says they claim they only make $5 an hour off you. If any firm is only making $5 off of you, they're going to go out of business soon. You can't run a consulting firm at only $5 an hour unless you're placing, really low level individuals. So, all right. So sales, if it's causing you heartache, and you have never been trained on how to sell yourself as a consultant, you can lose a ton of time, a ton of money. And this is the bane of a consultant's existence, isn't it? Downtime, unpaid time between projects. And one of the challenges when you're billing, when you're on a project that's phenomenal and you're loving it, how do you sell and market yourself while you're billing full time and keep the pipeline full? That can be really tricky. And all of these challenges can lead to nights like this, right? Stress, or, some of you don't need the money. It's still frustrating. It's still frustrating. You're here because you want to work. You want to deliver some impact out there, and you want more work. So at this point, when you're feeling this way, late at night, waking up early, staring at your computer, hoping the job offer is going to come in for that next cool project, while all of those things are waiting and you're scratching your head trying to figure out what's happening, and you identify that it's a sales problem, it can be very tempting to just say, I need to make more phone calls. I need to go to more networking events. I just got to shake more hands. I got to just talk to more people. It's a numbers thing. It's partly a numbers thing. If you're not doing any networking or any marketing whatsoever, yeah, you got to do a little bit more. You got to pick up the phone. You got to get out on LinkedIn. Absolutely. But if you're doing some of it and it isn't working, Don't just go crank up those numbers, because the solution is not more sales, more calls, more sales, more calls, like my first boss in sales taught me. Pound the phones, 50 phone calls a day, you'll figure it out. Can you imagine the poor CIOs on the other end of me? I was 24. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Calling CIOs, hi, I'm Catherine Byers. I'm with Interim Technology. We got the best consultants on the planet. You want to meet with me? What a nightmare. I was making 50 of those phone calls a day. That is not the right approach. Better sales will fix that. It's funny that one of you brought up agencies, because the reality is when you hook up with the right agencies, like Patina Solutions, Patina Nation, Patina Solutions, when you hook up with a firm that treats their consultants as well as they treat their clients, it can be nirvana. It really can. And so I'm thrilled that you have all hooked into the Patina Nation and that you are working with them and taking advantage of them. They are fabulous. And when they have the right opportunity for you, you are going to love working with them. Their sales and recruiting teams are incredibly experienced. They're polished, they're professional, and they understand that they are only as good as the care that they take of their consultants. In other words, if they don't listen to you, if they don't prep you and help you win the project and then help you succeed, if they don't stay with you once you're on assignment and help you work through the politics and the challenges and the CEO getting fired or whatever it is, they know that in the end, they're going to lose long term. So they are going to be there with you hip to hip. But the reason that we're here today is that Patina understands it's all a timing thing. And they've got a fabulous stable of highly talented, smart executives who are ready to go to work, but they may not have the right project for you on the day, the week, the month that you're available. So hook into them, get to know your local team, go to their events, make your relationship with Patina strong so that when they have an opportunity, you're the first person they think of and the first phone call they make and the first interview that you get. That's me on the outside telling you, you want to make the most of your Patina relationship, be a good partner with them. Bring them sales leads. When the salesperson calls you and says, hey, Jane, I have this fabulous opportunity, and you say, I'm not interested in that. Say, but tell me a little bit more. Let me see if I can refer somebody to you. If you really want to make the most of your relationship with Patina, that's the way to stand out and be the first person they call. Couldn't help but pitch a little bit around that. So that can be wonderful. But again, it's all about the timing. And if you're available and they don't have the right gig, then what? Furthermore, even when Patina calls you and they say, we have this incredible opportunity for you to launch a new bank in Europe right now, are you interested? And you say, absolutely. You're going to have to go in and meet with their client. You're going to have to sell yourself. And as I said earlier, there's some incredibly accomplished executives who go into those client meetings for projects that they are beautifully poised to succeed in, and they don't listen, they don't prepare appropriately, and they kind of blow up in the client meeting, and the client says, no, thank you. You don't want that to happen to you. So this whole idea of sales, you've still got to pay attention to it. So what's the solution? What is the solution? Well, I'm going to give you my 5-point plan for solving this sales pickle that I got myself into when I started ARBEZ 12 years ago, and that I've watched thousands and thousands and thousands of consultants struggle with. Here's the answer. Number one, do not redo your LinkedIn profile or rewrite your resume or do your website all over again until you figure out what's your niche. What do you really want to do? Who do you want to do it for? Who's that ideal client? I do a lot of public speaking. I go where the crowds are. If somebody wants me to come in and fire up a crowd about how to sell, how to network, how to get a raise, how to consult, how to make more money, how to interview, I'm there. If the client's paying me, I get to go help people, wonderful. The challenge is, in those big events, there are a lot of people in the audience that I help short term, but then they want help on the back end. And in the beginning, I was trying to help everybody. And number one, you can't help everybody. Number two, I'll tell you what the danger is. You can help a ton of different companies. Your skills and experience is going to be like rocket fuel to any company that chooses to bring you in. But if you don't pick a niche, you are going to be chasing purple squirrels all over the place. You're going to be scattered. Your message is going to be ineffective. Your time is going to be wasted. And when that big fish, when that ideal client and project comes along, you're not going to be there. So before you do anything else, zero in on what you want to do for whom. And let me let you in on a little secret. You can change it a year from now. You can change it 3 months from now. A lot of people are like, whoa, I don't want to limit myself. Trust me, pick a niche right now, go deep. You will bubble up other opportunities, and you can absolutely shift gears down the road if you decide that's no fun and you want to do something else. But you've got to get clear on what you want to do, who you want to do it for. So you can tell Patina that, so you can tell your network that, and you can be an effective communicator when you're out there networking. So that's step one. Step two is to get a magnetic message. Let me give you a couple of my favorites. So, selling consultants, there was the secret to my success was I had to make them look good and sound good. So when I finally got a client and a candidate in for a meeting, I spent an hour or two prepping that candidate on how to sell themselves. And so I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of people in the last 20 years and hearing all sorts of terrible, terrible elevator pitches and then some brilliant ones. So let me give you a couple of my favorites. So Pat is a world-renowned economist, and he was interviewing at the biggest retailer in the world for an economist position. And he called me by referral and asked for some help prepping for that interview with the CEO and the executive team. And he said, hey, I've been an academic my whole life. I'm interviewing for my first corporate job. He was a former Harvard, Stanford, super wicked smart guy. And he said, I'm interviewing with this global retailer. I need your help. I need you to help me get my message down. And I said, absolutely, I'd love to work with you. And then I called Stefan, my husband, and I said, what have I done? I said yes to this. What do I know about economics? I know nothing about economics. Who am I to help this guy position himself and get the messaging right? So I walked into the interview. I did tons of prep, but I walked into my mock interview with him pretty darn nervous that he wasn't going to be, I thought he wasn't going to be able to talk his way out of a paper bag. I thought he was going to sell at this level, leave me in the dust 30 seconds into our conversation, and that I would never be able to get this guy hired. Much to my delight, I sat down, we talked about the weather a little bit. I said, what are you looking to do? Who are you meeting with? How can I help? And he said, well, I need you to help me with my message. And I said, so tell me what you do. And he said, I'm an economist. I build crash test dummies for big business. For instance, when Northwest Airlines and Delta Airlines wanted to bring the companies together, they called me in to run a crash test dummy, an economic model, to find out what the impact would be on the global airline industry. The FTC brought him in to do that. And I said, all right, my job is done. Off you go. So that is a magnetic message. I build crash test dummies for business to make sure they don't expand into the wrong market, to make sure they don't lose market share, whatever it is, to help them test the market before they build a new product or service. Isn't that brilliant? Okay, a few others of my favorite. Supply chain distribution guru out of New York City. He was really struggling to find work. Nobody wanted to hire him as a consultant in the supply chain space. He'd been looking for 9 months. His wife, his kids, and he were freaking out. And I said, well, out of curiosity, when you hit the streets, how are you introducing yourself? And he said, well, I'm a supply chain distribution dude. You know, I really make sure that companies have their supply chain. I do, lean business process. I do organizational development. Well, I'm just really good at supply chain. And I said, well, humor me. For the next week, don't ever say that again. Because unless you're talking to a CEO or somebody who's lived and worked in supply chain, they don't understand what you do. Adults are too polite to tell you that they don't understand what you do. And so people are shaking your hand and smiling, and they are never going to call you or introduce you to their network because they're either intimidated or they don't understand. Why don't you try this instead? He'd been in perishable foods his entire life. And I said, all right, do you like that? Yes. Do you love it? Yes. You want to stay in perishable foods? Great. Why don't you instead introduce yourself as, I'm the guy that gets your ice cream to your table cold and fresh. And he said, well, that's fun, but that's a little silly. And I said, yes, it is. Just try it. He tried it, and he was on his first assignment 3 weeks later. We could go on. Now, some of your favorites. You tell me in the chat. What are some of your favorites? What are some of the favorite elevator pitches that you've heard over the years? And by the way, you do not have 30 seconds to introduce yourself. You have 10 seconds to grab somebody's attention. And there are two things they want to know about you. Who are you and why should I care? And you've got to figure out how to take everything you have to offer and turn that into a 10-second pitch that answers those two questions. Who are you and why should they care? In other words, how does what you do touch them in their world, and how can you make their life easier, better, more fun, more lucrative, whatever it is. All right, VR, VJ Roshini, I'm kidding, I'm making it up. VR says, I'm the only one who can show you how your operations really work and how to improve them. I like it, it's confident. Anindya tells companies how many products to be made in which plants and how many to ship to which warehouse. Awesome. Okay. Anindya, maybe it's Anindya. Anindya, I have an idea for you. I was working with another supply chain leader who was really, really struggling to get her next thing. And she was talking in the weeds, blah, blah, this. And I said, all right, stop all that. Tell me about your favorite project. And she said, oh my gosh, I was working at Target Corporation and we had expanded into Canada and the shelves were empty. Literally, we launched in Canada and the shelves were empty and nobody could figure out what was going on. It was taking 3 months to get our product from China to Canada. And in 2 weeks' time, I figured out what that problem was and I reduced that from 3 months down to 3 weeks from order to fulfillment. Now that is a powerful story. So she changed entirely the way she was introducing herself. And she said, you know, I'm in supply chain. Well, let me just give you an example. Here's what that means. When you go to a Target store and you want toilet paper and there's none on the shelves, that's no fun. I make sure what you need is on that shelf. For instance, I recently helped a company reduce their time from manufacture to market from 3 months to 3 weeks. I'd love to help you do the same. All right, so that is a magnetic ROI-based message. That's the second thing you need to really spend some time working on. Number 3, pricing. Not just the right price, but a value-based price, an ROI-based price. You need to understand how much revenue you can drive, how much money you can save. What is the financial gain, productivity gain? What's the win for your next client? And when you position your price, your price, your rate, your project fee, whatever it is, when you position that, it's got to be bundled around that value. That's step 3. And most consultants, you guys, skim past these things. They're like, oh, I'll figure it out. I want to try everything. They skip number 1 and say, I want to try everything. Then they say, I'll figure out that message. I'll adapt it depending on who I'm sitting in front of. And they don't think about it. And then 3, on price, they're probably pretty good about figuring out what they should be charging. 2 to 3 times your normal salary. Yeah, that works most of the time. But if you aren't able to demonstrate your value behind what you are charging and what that investment for your client is going to get them, it's a problem. Okay. And then number 4, filling the funnel. And as I said earlier, it ain't all about more calls. All right. It's about smarter networking, smarter marketing, how to find the clients consistently. Now you can hire a digital marketing agency to do this for you. But if you're a standalone consultant, A, I don't think you need to spend that money. And B, what are you going to do with all the leads? So short of hiring somebody to sell you, partnering with firms like a Patina, fabulous, but you can't rely on that alone. You have to take it on yourself to consistently network with your ideal people. Those people who are raging fans, they are advocates. It's your ideal networking channel partners. They get you, they know how good you are, and they're willing to put their reputation on the line for you. That is what you need. You need to build an army, and it can be a small army of advocates who know that you are number 1 in the market to solve this problem. Step 5. So once you've gone through these 4 steps and you're getting pretty good at all of these things, then you need to think about how can you become a market leader? Because again, I said at the top of the hour and you know it, doesn't matter how good you are once you're on assignment. When you're a consultant, what you need is everybody in your market to know that you're number one. You need to be the first person they think of when they have a problem. You don't want to rely on people to go do a Google search and hopefully discover your website because it's SEO optimized or find your LinkedIn profile. You need to make sure that you are well known. And we don't have time today to talk about how to do that, but lots of ways for you to become more well known in your niche, in your industry, in your market, whether that's local, national, or global. All right. ROI focused price. Holland says, can I give an example of an ROI focused price? Yeah, absolutely. So we're about to talk about various ways that we can help you. And today I'm going to walk you through why Patina has partnered with us. And we've got a course that can solve all these problems for you. And you can buy it a la carte for $3,380, $3,380 if you want, or you can buy our bundled toolkit for $995. And we will guarantee you that you will pay for that your first time out. We will teach you how to negotiate a better rate, and our toolkit is going to pay for your better rate. That's an ROI based. Let me think. I'll think of some other examples as we go along here. You guys, help her out here. My brain, I didn't have enough coffee today, so I'm other examples of a really good ROI focused price. You know, Patina outselling, and I don't sell for Patina, but if I were outselling for Patina and somebody pushed back on me on rates on the level of our consultants and the prices that we're charging for them, say, you know what, you can probably go find somebody on the street for a little bit cheaper, but let me tell you what, here's an ROI based message. Tell you what, when you hire through Patina, what you get is, first of all, top-notch consultants. We only hire the best. They are fully vetted by our team of experienced recruiting and salespeople who have lived with bad consultants. So fully vetted, top-notch consultants. Furthermore, you get the backing of our entire organization. We are one phone call away from your headache disappearing. Whatever a problem is, you pick up the phone, you call me, solved. That's an ROI based. So at that point, they could talk about stats and turnover and how many consultants fail. There are lots of different ways to do it. All right, so Alan wants to know, doesn't pricing depend on the opportunity saving? Yes. That's why I can't come here right now and say, you should be charging $500 an hour. You should be charging $250. You should be charging $120. You should be charging 50 grand for an audit. I can't tell you guys, it's called armchair coaching. Right now, I can't whip out numbers and tell you what to charge. It does depend on the work and the project, the scope, the industry, the complexity. All of those things play into it. And so you've got to be a good listener. You've got to ask smart questions during the process. But you also need to know what your bottom line is, and you need to know what the competitors are paying so that you know that you're in that zone and that you're asking for a rate that's appropriate. All right, so let me tell you how I can help. So when I finally figured out this 5-step process for myself, started finding my ideal clients, filling my pipeline on a consistent basis, I was having a lot of fun and I wanted to go help other people. So I said yes to a couple of speaking opportunities and I thought, oh my gosh, I can now do the thing that I could never do when I was selling and recruiting consultants. I only had time to help the person that I had a job for. I couldn't help everybody else. Now I can. So speaking was fabulous. And all of a sudden I got all fired up and I said, I'm going to help 1 million people to do what they love for a living and be successful and make great money. So speaking, webinars, radio, I even got on television and I was like, fantastic, this is great. I'm helping thousands of people, teaching them my method. Well, then my phone started ringing because people would come to a 1-hour or a 2-hour gig and they'd be all fired up and they'd say, I can do it. And then they'd fall down and they'd get stuck and they wanted help. And they said, will you coach me? And I started saying yes to that. So I was coaching people and working with them one-on-one. And I'm not going to lie, I really love working with people one-on-one. But the challenge with that is not everybody's going to cough up 10 grand to work with me one-on-one. Not everybody's going to, not everybody needs to. Sometimes people just need a little game plan. And then the other thing is, Not everybody can afford that. So what to do about this? How can I help 1 million people? Well, harness the power of technology. Take my 5-step process, toss it in a bottle, and give people a do-it-yourself approach. So that's what I did. We threw our first course online 10 years ago. We're still putting out fresh content. And so we've got this course, How to Become a Highly Paid Consultant. It's based on our 20 years of experience. I've fallen down, I've skinned my knees. And this course, if you follow it step by step, Terry last week tripled her income. Derek doubled his income on his first project. Roger got his first new project 3 weeks out in a totally new industry. It's fun. It works. But here's what I realized. Very few people want to do it on their own. And so they would do this course, and I teach them at a high level how to sell and how to do it. And then they get stuck, and they kept calling me. And so then I said, okay, you need a deeper dive in sales and networking. Great, sales and negotiation. So we built the sales and negotiation kit and said, there you go, there's the solution. Off you go. You can do this all by yourself. You're smart, you're talented. Thought it would sell like hotcakes. But people kept calling me. They'd buy the kit. Some people, it's sort of like building your home, rebuilding your home. Some people are good enough, smart enough, motivated enough to do it on their own, but people kept calling. They wanted me. There were people hopping in their cars, following me all over town. So then they were stuck on interviewing. And they said, I followed your process, but I can't close the deal. Or I don't know what to do when the client goes quiet on me. And so then came the interview guide. And again, there you go. Everything I know in a bottle, you can do this. They kept calling. Speaking of the sales funnel, sales and negotiation was the tactical, but people were really struggling with networking. So I built the networking kit. Here you go. If you follow my program, your business is going to explode. My phone kept ringing. I'm embarrassed to tell you, it took me a couple of years to finally clue in. People want a thinking partner. They want a sounding board. They want a coach. They don't necessarily want to pay 10 grand for a coach, but they want that coach. And so I said, all right, you can come join me every Wednesday at 12 noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Western. You can join me once a week live in a mastermind small group coaching circle. There you go. And that's great. But I knew that wasn't any good unless they had something to go on to. So where I'm going with all of this is if you want, you can start out and take a look at our sales and negotiation kit. If you follow the plan, I promise you it'll make a tremendous difference in your business. But I'd rather you join me and get the whole kit and caboodle for $9.95. So again, you can buy them a la carte, but I'm not really interested in selling things a la carte and having you come back to me and say, I figured out the sales thing, but this networking is still hard, or I'm still getting rejected, whatever it is. Do yourself a favor, get it all at once. A la carte is more expensive. As I said, $3,380. You can get it all for $9.95, but actually through Patina, I am so excited to be partnered up with Patina because remember, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people, and try though I might, I can't reach that many people all by myself. So when I met Patina about 3 or 4 months ago, I was thrilled. So we've teamed up. They are going to offer a 10% discount to you, and you can get the whole kit and caboodle and meet me every Wednesday at noon. You can even call me from the golf course if you want. You can tune in when you can. What you'll get is 12 months of that weekly coaching, which is really critical because you're going to go through the program. You're going to get your message down. You're going to get your niche. You're going to get your message down. You're going to work on those networking and sales skills. You're going to get your first 1, 2, 3 projects. And then you're going to run into a situation down the road. We've got clients like Julian, who's been a consultant for 15 years. Clearly, he's successful. He bought our toolkit because he said he misses being part of a team and he misses that sounding board. So anyway, if you're interested, great. We'd love to have you. You can get all of this on patinanation.com. This is how it looks like this. Click on professional development and you'll see consulting sales. The courses are right there. And if you click through patinanation.com to purchase, you will instantly get that 10% discount. You can come to my website, ARBEZ, but you're going to have to pay full price. So I'd love for you to get that discount through Patina Nation. All right, so Q&A. Q&A. What have we got today? Hello, I'm now full screen. Hi, everybody. Did I Brush my teeth today? Yes, I did. All right, so questions. Got a couple of questions here. Tom, given that one of the key reasons consultants are hired is to accelerate results, is it prudent to translate your expertise in terms of revenue and cost savings? Absolutely. So Lori, supply chain, cost savings. You know, when she talked about slow boat from China used to take 3 months. I got that down to 3 weeks from order to fulfillment and saved the company X amount in new revenue and, you know, or lost revenue, what have you. Absolutely. So that's when I'm talking about the ROI based message. This is why picking your niche and understanding who your ideal client is so powerful. The deeper you go in one industry or one functional area, the deeper you go, the more articulate you can become about what their pain point is, what are they struggling with, what are they losing in terms of revenue and productivity, and what can you do for them? And this is why I love helping people whip out for instance, a sample story, a case study that they can talk about in 10 seconds flat. For instance, I recently helped a company, blah, 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 really, really critical. All right, other questions. And Jesse and Dan, if you have seen any questions that I haven't hit on that you want me to, bring them on.
Yeah, we got a question from somebody on the webinar today.
Yes.
Julie asks, how many people are engaged in your weekly calls?
Yeah, between 10 and 30 usually. So 30 is a big week. If we have a big push and we have a lot of new clients joining us, 30. I think we peaked at 27 last week, but we're normally around that 10 to 15. And so small enough, they're small group coaching circles. And what we do is if we end up in a situation where we have too many people showing up on a regular basis, we'll kick off a new call. We like to keep those things small and intimate. And the way the coaching calls work is I have a topic of the day. So last week it was pick your niche. This week it was sales. So I have a topic of the week. I teach one thing for 10 or 15 minutes. We talk about that, break through people's barriers around that issue, and then it's open season, open forum, and people bring whatever questions they're struggling with. So that's why it's important to keep those fairly intimate. And they're 1 hour.
Okay.
Yeah, they are 1 hour. Thank you for asking, Julie. Really good question.
And which of your courses is most popular?
How to become a highly paid consultant. That's, if you're just going to pick one, pick the How to Become a Highly Paid Consultant. It's the foundation for everything else. And the other kits point back to that course. So start with that. It gives you those 5 steps that I walked you through, exercises, tools, examples. It's me in a bottle, so it's video based. So you can tune in 24/7 anytime, and it's short videos on little topics, then an exercise and examples to take you through. So start with the Highly Paid Consulting Kit.
And then are your courses live or available online or on demand?
Great question. On demand. So the courses that I just laid out for you are all on demand, smartphone, iPad, PC, anywhere you can get to the internet, you can get to them 24/7, which comes in handy when you're out in the field and you get an impromptu client meeting. You can quickly run out and prep a little bit online. So 24/7 on demand, go at your own pace. And then the calls every Wednesday are live with me.
Awesome. And then Nicole asked, how do I get started as a consultant?
You know, Nicole, the very best thing to do, first of all, congratulations on making the decision to do it. I think it's wonderful. The first thing I'd like you to do is get clear on why do you want to be a consultant? That mindset thing, a lot of people just say, I want to be a consultant, and they jump in and they don't stop to think, why do I want to be a consultant? And then take a look at what are your concerns and do a reality check. Are you ready to go right now? Or do you want to get a little bit of money in the bank? And I highly recommend you have a little financial cushion. The exception to that is if you get a fabulous project opportunity through a firm and the money is right, you got to have a financial cushion. So why do you want to be in it? What kind of a consultant do you want to be? Get that mindset. Are you good enough? Absolutely. But do you know it? If you don't believe that yet, do some work on that mindset. And then their course will really save you from a lot of pain and suffering. The How to Become a Highly Paid Consultant. Lesson 1 is going to help you pick that niche and figure out what kind of a consultant do you want to be. And it even gives you some options. It gives you 3 paths. You can start out by doing projects on the side. So some of you may want to keep your full-time job and paycheck and benefits and try things out on the side and do a couple of projects through your network, nights and weekends, to build up your portfolio, try on your chops. The next step is I teach you how to work through consulting firms like Patina, how to work effectively with them. And then the third path is to hang your shingle, start your own business. And I talk about everything from setting up the business to taxes, accounting, legal, financial, all of it. So the step 1, and it'll take you through all of that. Other questions?
Great. I think that's about all we have time for today. Thank you all for joining us. You'll be receiving a post-event survey in your inbox. Catherine, thank you for all these insightful tips.
Yes.
Visit patinanation.com for more of our offerings. And if you have any unanswered questions for Catherine, feel free to reach out to her at catherine@arbez.com. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been a presentation of the Patina Nation. To watch more content like this or for more information, please visit us online at www.patinanation.com.